Welcome back to stage 2 of Blast R6 EUL is Play Day 1. Thank you so much for joining us wherever you are in the world. In fact, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. Don't be too precise, that'd be a little bit weird. Just give us like a country or whatever so we can maybe take a look, give you a shout out. My name's Ian alongside Fresh and Leah. We are 3 down, 1 to go, and it is Wylde versus BDS. I'm looking forward to talking to you two about this one, but first, let's just tee you up. EU's juggernauts, BDS, arguably the best team in the world. And one of their biggest moments recently was the semi-final of the Manchester Major. Luckily, I was there for it. It's BDS! Star-studded, flexibility, confidence, raw gunpowder, aggression. BDS are on a mission to put themselves back on top of the Major for the first time since sweet Sweden.
Player left, he's stuck here on beepers in a 1 versus 3. For all the time the BDS had, for all the information, it's going to come close, it's going to come down to the wire. Stun goes in, Leaky Fact, he's found one, he's got to try and split these two apart, he picks the first, he's down to the SMG, there's 5 seconds left, it is Swungo, Beast!
Yes, apologies. That was, of course, the quarterfinal. They did make it into the grand final after being successful in the semis as well. It was one hell of a run. They couldn't get the job done there. But since they've proven elsewhere, they're arguably Fresh, best team in the world.
Yeah, obviously they went to the next S-tier tournament. They went over to Riyadh into the Esports World Cup, and they went and won that. Didn't drop a single fixture throughout their time over at the Esports World Cup. Incredible. Final against Furia, 3-0. Like, these guys were running the show. There's something about Sonny Shaiko that just changes the landscape of these guys. But I would say, on form, these are the best team in the world right now.
I think it's nowhere, there's no team near them this year. You look at stage 1, they only dropped 1 map. You look at Manchester Major, grand finals, and if it wasn't for Biscoast and a crazy momentum, they should have won that event. And then they win EWC quite convincingly. Clearly no other team is that confident right now and that dominant in Siege.
That's crazy, because we were talking for so long about just Brazilian dominance, right? And it's just switched gears right now with BDS on top.
Yeah, I think the thing is that if you look at the Brazilians, they've got a style of play. If you look at the Europeans and you look at BDS, I think they've got a very different style of play. It's a European style of play, but it's fast, it's aggressive, it's confident, and it's the best 5 players in their respective roles, whilst, and this is the big thing, whilst also every individual in that team is a match winner if they need to step up and be, and that's just what makes them so scary.
They have to win a major, though, if they want to prove that.
Of course they have to win a major, and they have to win SI. In this year, they need to win SI. Everybody is expecting them to win SI. So it's right now, like, playing this first matchup, especially against Wylde, I mean, that's a given. Like, they need to beat them, like, for sure. But whatever we expect from them is much bigger than this. And it has to do with the roster itself. So many big names on that roster, and for the first time, we have a star playing team that works together, right? A team of star players that finally meshes well and can play any style of Siege.
And that's the funny thing about EWC as well.
Yeah.
Who was in the conversation for the MVP? It wasn't even Shaiko.
Yeah.
It was Leakifak or Users. They were the discussions that we were having.
Yeah, just a group of beasts in it. It's a bit of a juxtaposition, and I mean no disrespect at all to their opponents here, because they're coming here to do business, of course, as well. But Wylde, you know, we talk about BDS and all of the expectation on them. Wylde, the biggest unknown here, Fresh.
Yeah, they're a huge, huge unknown. I think if we look at the Wylde roster, and they're going to be up on your screen right now, the 2 returning players of Dodo and Packbull actually both left Wylde in the summer. Packbull went to Revan and went and played EWC quals in Mexico. Dodo went to go and play in Tier 2, went out on loan. They're now back, and they form the returning player base alongside Freck, Leighton, and Croxon that all get the call up. And realistically, the one thing that I will say about this Wylde roster is this is a brand new 5. This is a brand new team that's kind of pushed together these 5 players. And the reality is we can't look at the Wylde of last stage or the Wylde of last year as a basis for this team, because this is a brand new team. Leighton's going to be IGLing, so it's a brand new IGL as well, and we just don't know.
Leo, it's pretty wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. What I find wild, actually, is that it looks like a team mixed of all the best T2, T3 players they could find out of after the roster change and all of the other teams, what was left, and then what could they build with it. It really looks like this, like a patchwork team. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to work. They have an interesting new pickup as an IGL. I'd like to see a lot from Leighton, actually. And I think Rock is very interesting as well. Like I pointed before, he's the first Spanish player in 4 years to play in Pro Siege. So I think a lot of things around this roster are more interesting maybe than the one before, but I just don't really know where the identity or playstyle is there.
And there is a template for that. There is a template for that. Go and look at ITB when they very first entered this scene. They didn't have a clue what was going on with the roster, with the team, and they meshed it together and they said, what works? Then let's change out one more bit. Then let's change out one more bit. And I think that might be what Wylde are doing. They're giving the players a chance, the players they like the look of, the players that were available that Wylde could get. You know, they were a bottom of the league team in stage 1.
Yeah.
They're not going to have the pull power of a G2, of a Fnatic. You know, they've got to look lower down that order. And now, if they can just start building, that's what I hope for them that is.
It's play day by play day for these guys, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's all about the expectations. You were saying like a team roster like Wylde, for example.
Yeah.
You'd see that they have the least expectations out of all the teams here. But at the same time, is it really the end game for these guys, especially the up-and-comers, to stay in that roster if it's going to stay in the bottom league? Or is it maybe to show themselves in tier 1 play and get picked up by better teams? So pressure is still them for these guys to perform, especially because for most of them, it's one of the first really big tier 1 opportunity that they get.
When you do win big and you make big earnings in Siege, we see it a lot, especially at SIs and the like. You know that you then have a bit of a hangover. Maybe you're not as hungry. Maybe you're not as driven going into the next season. Is there a risk of that with BDS, or do you think they've still got so much to prove here where it matters in these leagues?
You're shaking your head, and I'm thinking yes. So I'm going to let you go first, Leo. You're saying no.
No way. You look at these players, you look at their careers, you look at what they've achieved, and you look at SI. SI is in the way. Finally, they have a roster that can make it. They can win SI. Finally, they can get to the final crown. We're not speaking of a team that have been crowd world champions before. They want to do that. They were really close before, but they are the nearest that they could be with that roster, and for sure they have only that in mind. Only that.
Okay, so if I go
Give it to me fresh.
yes, there is a risk, and I'm saying yes, there's a risk.
Yeah.
This roster is they were the major finalists. They will be at SI by whether they do well this season or not.
Yeah.
They will be at SI, and that's the key one. Is there a risk they take their eye off the ball? Of course, there is that risk, and we have seen it. Will I think BDS do it? No, not a chance. They're such a new team together. The 2 new guys into it have not experienced this level of success. To be honest, even the 3 old guys, apart from winning 1 major, haven't experienced this really before.
Yeah.
So it will be on them, and they will be as hungry as ever.
Yeah,
I know they will be.
And Sweden was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It feels like it, doesn't it? A lot's happened in Siege in Sweden. Let's take a look at picks and bans going into our final best of 1 of the day, Fresh.
Yeah, so we're going to see the picks and bans coming in here. Of course, we were hoping for a Lair. I think that's the latest it's made it in any of the ban phases so far, but we don't end up seeing a Lair. The thing with this map veto is we don't really know Wylde's map preference because, like we said, it's pretty much a brand new team with a new IGL and a new way of playing. So we're going to see the map go to Nighthaven. Now, if we look at BDS on Nighthaven, they absolutely love that map. It's one of the highest preference maps, and they're going to start defense.
When you look at the statistics on BDS, you just wonder which map do you want to take them to, because they've been winning so much. I mean, the guys literally they've got a 10-map win streak on Bank. They've got a 5-map win streak on Oregon. They've got another 9-map win streak on Consulate. Like, you don't want to take them on any of these maps. So you go to Nighthaven. Actually, in the last 12 maps that they've played, they've only lost once, and it was Nighthaven, but it was against FaZe, not against Wylde. And let me tell you, there's a big difference in rosters.
Yeah, Wylde are much better, of course. No,
of course, yeah.
I'm joking. Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Is there is no good map to play BDS on. So what we can take from this is actually Nighthaven is probably the most comfortable map for Wylde in this moment of time, irrespective of that opponent. When they're looking to prepare that map veto between the team, they know there's that golfing class.
Yeah.
They know that there's likely a golfing map pool and map strategy and that type of thing. So it's just about get us on the best map we possibly can get on so we can give a best account of ourselves possible.
Well, I know that some of you in chat get a little bit annoyed when we carry on yapping, but it's just because we're waiting for that lobby to fill up so we can get you into the game. So we're going to do some more yapping with 2 of my other favorite yappers. We got Des and Ace here once again. Ace, I'm going to come to you first. BDS, best team in the world, what are you saying?
I think so at the minute. I think, you know, obviously Furia are still very much up there, but BDS, you got to remember, it feels like it's a roster that was kind of in its infancy as well over the last 6 months or so. Now they're really starting to hit the ground. They're really solidifying that. They've had the, you know, period of time off. They've had EWC. So, yeah, I think for me, BDS are absolutely lethal. I'd say this is David versus Goliath. I think that much is fair, but I'd honestly say that about probably 5 or 6 of BDS's matchups coming over at UL. They're just so good.
All right, well, Des, Ace, it is time for you to lead us through our final matchup of the day. We will see BDS, like we're hammering it. We are saying that these guys are the men to watch, but we've got a wild card in the mix. Can we see an unpredictable team cause a crazy upset here on Play Day 1? Let's find out. Des and Ace, take us home, baby.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chambers. Yes, last game of the day. It feels like it's really flown by to me. I know we've only had 3 games so far, but I think after that last game especially, it just feels like things have rolled on ridiculously quick, and we're back to where we started with Nighthaven Labs. Only thing is, the teams are different.
I think it's because we're back, Des. I think it's because it just feels like we're so back. You know, we've had this big break.
So back.
We've had this big break. We come back in. We've got competitive Siege back. Tonight was always going to fly around. It's been an absolute joy. Not that it's not always, but, you know, I've been sat absolutely gasping for this day to come round. And it's been an absolute pleasure. We've had some bomb games, a blowout.
Are you sure that's not just your asthma and your old age, Tim?
Could be a bit of both. Could be that I've just walked upstairs too quick.
Throwing your hip out in the process.
Hey, I'm at the gym 6 times a week, I'll have you know.
And our 2 bans come through so far in the Monty and the Deimos. Deimos been a frequent ban so far today. Not at all surprised to see it taken away from Shaiko. He's going to pick that one up from time to time and put it to devastating use. The Monty, I think, more of a, I'd say a respect ban over towards the other side. Just get it off the board. Don't give him that chance as well. Valkyrie, unsurprisingly, a pretty popular ban today too. And Mira, maybe a little bit of a surprising one, Tim. But that to me says they don't want to give Wylde any ability to dig in outside of sight and make it difficult for BDS to do their job. They want to go in, guns up, and win their fights. The big one being the Dekebi is still online. I think Wylde are in for a bit of a bruising when they really start to see BDS get moving. However, we've all written Wylde off essentially coming into this game. You know, BDS, one of the top few teams that we've got in the world right now. No one's going to beat them. When all the chips are down and when no one expects anything from you is when you can hit the hardest. So don't write them off just yet. We'll see if any kind of craziness comes out. Wylde start on the attacking side of things. BDS don't strike me as the kind of team to get up in your face like we saw G2 do against Fnatic on the previous map. But they will let you know they're inside that building when the time is right.
Look, I often say the same about traditional sports. You know, coming into a matchup, coming into any matchup involving BDS, you know, we're going to sound silly sitting here saying, oh, yeah, this is, you know, really close. BDS are just, you know, they have been phenomenal, and that's not just based on reputation. Their results have shown that. Their performances have shown that. But what I would always say, and I say the same, I'm a big traditional sports fan as well, and I say the same for them. The fact is there's 2 teams in this server. They're going to come out, and it is always possible. Everything is possible for anybody to walk away with a win. You know yes, you're going to look at it and say it's more likely for others than not. But Wylde, as you say, may well just come in here, and they could well catch BDS on the bounce. They could have been prepping Nighthaven for weeks for this game. You don't know, and we'll see as it plays out.
We definitely will, but the Premier League started again recently, and I think this, I really hope Demo's watching as I say this, this game feels more like a United versus Liverpool, like we're going to find that everything is done and dusted before we've even got ourselves started. Anyway, let's get into this. Round 1 is underway, and already BDS, of course, you can see for the most part, are dug inside of sight here. Not looking to get too aggressive out towards Wylde, but again, they'll let you know they're inside the building when the time really comes. So for the start part, at least, Wylde will have a little bit of freedom. 2 really quick and early calls coming out on the Dekebi before any walls are opened up as well, Tim. 60 seconds in, there are none left on side. No walls have been opened up yet. That feels a little bit preemptive.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, I texted Demo earlier to make sure he was okay after the football. I won't tell you his exact response, but he was fuming. Put it that way. Never mind. Right, in we go then. As you say, Wylde, just good work so far. A lot of droning going on, a lot of intel coming in, just clearing out a bit of utility, a bit of work's been done on the RT wall as well. But then you start to see the problem that you're up against. BDS absolutely removing Croc from this one, takes him down for the opener, but Dodo manages to get the trade back out.
I love how he did a video for us earlier saying,
yeah, we saw your video, Dodo. Don't you worry, we've got you covered.
I did what? Oh! Patbull just showing Shiko how it's done. A little one-tap round the corner and Shiko was not ready for it. Gets absolutely deleted. In what timeline does Patbull do that to Shiko? In what world does Solotop then also fall down to Dodo? Like I say, Tim, Giants might be hard to take on, but David's got a pretty strong slingshot ready to go.
I said it coming in. There are two teams in the server in every game, and anybody can win it. Wylde right now are hitting shots. BDS are stunned. 1v4 becomes 1v3 as Freak gets taken down for Wylde, but still Leakafak has got a mountain to climb, and he's got 3 HP to climb it with. He's out of breath. He's out of equipment. He's got a nitro in his hand, but that's about all he's got going for him. Out it goes, unsuccessfully, as it gets shot out before detonation. Diffuser goes down. This one is done. Move on, go next, because BDS, you've already lost round 1.
Oh, man, I'm never going to forget that Patbull shot onto Shiko. That's just one of those that you don't easily forget. A 3v1, though, as you say, and Leakyfat's got nothing to do. An absolute drubbing from Wylde in round 1, coming in through connector, making everything work. Just the tiniest slither of a Maverick opening onto the wall as well, and they get so much from it. And it started out strong. BDS, he hit a pretty nasty shot of his own, but BDS reminded there is indeed a second team in this server. What a first round that was.
This is it, you know, we can't forget about that fact. We've got a roster that's, you know, really coming to absolutely beautiful, weren't it? Just so sweet. You know, we've got a roster in Wylde that are coming together from, you know, kind of, as we've said, a little, kind of on the face of it looks a little bit all over the place, but Croc and Patbull were, I believe, at Revan for a very short time together, and then I think it was Croc and Leighton, I'll double check, you know, they were together as well previously. Croc and Freak were on Team Secret Academy together. So, you know, a number of these players have, you know, played together at different points on different rosters. So it's not like, you know, completely sort of just thrown into the mix here. You know, these are players that do have a little bit of a history. And, well, there was the history of some amazing shots being hit by Wylde there in round 1. And if that continues, BDS, they're going to know that they're in for a game.
Here's to hope him. I think many expected walking into this to see a 7-1, a 7-2, one hell of a tough ride for Wylde, but to start things off in that first round pretty convincingly, you know, give it to the new boys as well. Leighton and Dodo both hitting some pretty nasty shots as far as shots go. It's a really good start for them, but look at this aggression coming out here as well. It is Shiko challenging off against Patbull. We're still 1-0 towards the ball so far, and he's going to back off, not wanting to say, you know what, I won't stretch my luck. I'll take the one, and I'll leave it at that for now.
Having the angle being held, Solotov, it's a little bit too easy. Wylde have had a reasonably comfortable first round, but they need to be careful they don't let things get away from them. You can't be hopping in through windows without proper intel on the inside, and that's the only way that kill happens, because Solotov was stood pretty much in the open holding that angle. So if you're going in there, you're obviously not aware of his presence. Still 2 for BDS up on the top floor that need to be cleared out, because otherwise they're just going to collapse back down when there's 30 seconds left to go in this round, and you're going to get hit from behind. So lots of work for Wylde to do.
18 points of damage taken through. A shot comes in at long range as well. Patbull's finding one for himself. This time it's Leakyfat going down. It's clearly got a bit of a skull hunter on the go team. Wants every single player of BDS before this game is done and dusted. Halfway into the round, a 3v3 already. So actually BDS not exactly coming out of this unscathed. Pretty ideal start, I'd say, all things considered.
It's looking good for them at the moment. Certainly not as bad as it could have been. 3 versus 3, 1 minute 20 left to go. Wylde have, as I said, still got a bit of work to do here. They're not in a position, you know, to be able to think about putting a diffuser down or anything just yet. But BDS looking like they've got all 3 back to site now. So they're going to be playing the rest of this one, the remaining minute from down on there. But that means that Wylde have got to work even quicker. There's no fights to be found upstairs. There's no more sort of advantage to be gained from being up there. That said, Eustace, he looks like he's just looking for a little bit of a creep up the stairs there, but at the top of Exor Scares, the gridlock is out, the track stingers are in position, and that's going to prevent that flank coming through.
Some work done on the verticals here, but you can see from BDS, back in round 1 we did the same. They were quite dug in, didn't really want to play out around the map. It's not really their style to go hyper-aggressive. Sure enough, they've all dug themselves way back in as the ceiling comes down above them from that round. But we're into the final 30 seconds, Tim. And looking back at our last game between Fnatic and G2, you can't afford to make many mistakes. Defenders only have to get it right once in this case, and Eustace has got it right twice. 2 kills for himself. Freak might get 1 back onto him, but he's in a 1 versus 2 with Shaiko and BDS both waiting. This one looks cooked. It's going to be 1 apiece.
Yeah, great double from Eustace there to really push BDS on towards the finish line. BDS manages to finish it off. You know, again, that great side player that we've seen so many times. BDS is one of the most solid backline siege players that we've ever had. And, you know, he gets a kill there at the end just to close out the round, as he's done a million times before. And that levels things up 1-1. Wylde, they now know that they're in a game as well.
Don't they just... Sort of replay on my side screen of that shot from the first round. Honestly, I could watch it over so many times.
Beautiful, weren't it?
Such an unreal shot. The thing is, I think he wasn't going in obviously expecting to take a gunfight at that point. It's a classic kind of swing round, take a shot, step back in, reposition, swing again, take another shot, for example. Didn't expect that Shaiko would still be stood where he's sitting just before his drone had died. Just absolute magic. That round, though, much more composed. And I think a lot more of what BDS were hoping for back in round 1 as well. Didn't need to go hyper-aggressive, like I said. We're happy to let Wylde play into them. Here, though, they had a spot to fall away from. They did play out around the map a little bit and try and cause a little bit of bother, but had the ability to step back down towards the base when required, only for users to pick up a very comfy 2K down there and shut down any big hope of a comeback for Wylde in the round. 1 apiece, then. Not a bad start for either side. Now let's see who can really grab this game by the horns and run it towards the finish line.
We have the clash brought along by BDS. We're back up to the top floor, so it's going to be a repeat of round 1 where Wylde were able to actually get in, get the diffuser down and get that round 1. It was, you know, on the back of a couple of very nice kills along the way. They're going to be looking for more of the same, but they need a plan to deal with this clash. Looking across at the opposite side, they've got the Thatcher, EMPs, any that are left over from any breaching work that's going to be done. We'll be able to at least disable that electricity. They've got the Nomad, the air jabs potentially could be used if you can just position those in behind the clash, potentially knock her off her feet. Otherwise, could be a little bit tricky. So definitely something that Wylde need to be paying attention to.
They do, for sure. And at this point is where I probably would have started to expect BDS to get a bit more mobile and start causing a bit more bother around the map. Even if it's just one player that you're sending out to try and be that headache inducer for them, just something to give something Wylde something else to think about, because I think so far it's been relatively direct for them. They can focus on the site itself, knowing not too many players on the side of BDS are getting busy around the map. And just like that, you got Leakafat being a little bit of a bother on that first floor before working his way up Aqua as well. So they are trying to make sure that Wylde aren't just getting a free pass in towards site here, that there are more points of consideration that have to come through in these rounds.
Connector wall is going to be getting open. It's not too bad in terms of time. 1 minute 15 inside of the round. So reasonable progress going on now as Wylde start to just open up a few more angles that they're looking for. Largely the same push that they were looking for in round 1, getting themselves stacked up on that side, making it difficult to play an electrical connector in behind pillar. You know, looking to just squeeze BDS back out of sight effectively. They got a couple of kills along the way as they did that last time. But how about this? Shaiko, he's looking to get aggressive. He's pushing forward down to 60 HP though. Needs to be careful that he doesn't overextend here. BDS can use the clock a little bit more. They've still got that clash shield to play behind as well that's playing dividends at the minute. It's just holding that pillar position and preventing Wylde from aggressing forward, and a big double comes in. Shaiko, Leakafat, the dynamic duo really setting BDS forward in round 3.
More of what was expected back in round 1, I feel here. The clash really more of an insurance choice than anything. But the kills that they didn't manage to find back in round 1 are certainly being found here. Dodo's down. Leighton's all alone against 4 players on the French side. BDS looking again like this goose is a little bit cooked, and to make things even worse, well, it's Shaiko peeking out behind his teammate. Shield, what more can you say than that? A comfortable round for BDS, and now have settled their nerves a little bit after that first round.
Yeah, definitely a different performance round 2 and 3 from BDS. Very, very comfortable there in round 3. They're going to lock down that top floor, so that's down in the basement. Top floor, both locked down, so we're going to see their third choice site now. That'll either be kitchen or it'll be storage. I'm not sure which one they will go for. I would hedge my bets on storage if I had to, but yeah, BDS really starting to look dangerous. You look at that first round, Wylde did well, don't get me wrong, but it was a round built on a couple of really sweet shots that, you know, got them that man advantage and gave them the space to be able to push in, and you can't necessarily rely on that every single time. You know, it's going to be tough against this BDS team because their time to kill is it's in the fractions of seconds sometimes. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous when you're looking at any of these players.
Whew. All right, are BDS settled, or have Wylde got some more damage to dish out? Yet to be shown. However, looking at the lineup here, if they are bringing along that blitz, and that's something at least to get up in the face and be a little bit disruptive to the side of BDS. No, obviously, clash on their side this time around. I mean, this might be a little bit frustrating to deal with. Also got the Ying on side. So a lot to throw if it comes around to the execute team. That's the thing. If you see a Ying on side for me, you can make use of it to clear out parts of the map, to chuck a Candela in towards the room and force any roamers that are in there back. It's great for that. But the main purpose why you see her brought along and why you've also got 2 smokes in her back pocket is that she's there for the execute. That's a lot of flashes. It's a lot of smokes coming on through. There is a warden on the other side in the hands of Shaiko here, but that means keeping this Ying alive until the late round. Something that, for the most part, BDS have let them get away with, but I feel we're seeing them growing confidence here and playing further out and about around the map.
Shaiko out on the roam a little bit there as well. Always a dangerous prospect to deal with as he is on the warden. He's just playing in and around, so that's semi-roam in and around site, having a little peek into warehouse, a little look out into lounge, just see if he can catch anybody on the way in. But for the time being, Wylde are going to have to clear out the top floor. Last time it was Leakifak who was up there. I'm not sure who is going to be supporting him, but the pressure is going to mount as Wylde now try to push on forward, but the damage being done by the barbed wire will just give away the presence. It's Breeder who's up there in support. Nitro goes out, finds its man, Croc taken down. Shaiko manages to use the explosives for a freebie along the way as well. And that's going to leave us now in a 4 versus 3, 4 versus 2, as one is picked up by Solotov on the aqua stairs. BDS cruising again.
So you say that, Papel's hitting some shots today. He's taking down a good few names on the BDS side. A couple for himself in the round, but the problem is, while he's been getting away with that, elsewhere, 3 members of his team have fallen. 2 to C4s. The Ying dying up on Aqua. We touched on how important she would be towards the execute at the end of this round, and it's simply not going to be a thing anymore. Only real plus side they've got is that Usus has got no more smokes left in back pocket here. So they've got the ability to play a little more aggressively. They've still got the blitz on side, for example, but this still means that you need to isolate players on the side of BDS. I don't think it's going to be very easy.
No, not at all.
And here we are.
Steps up and shows how difficult indeed it will be to isolate him as he takes the head off Packbull, leaving it all up to Leighton, who is just trying to get anything going on the catwalk there, just hops over, has no real choice but to go for the challenge, and Shaiko is there ready to pick up that kill. Shaiko is going very well so far today. He's another one of those players that I would put, you know, in the bracket I was speaking about earlier, where, you know, player like Doku, once they start picking those kills up and the confidence starts flowing, then boy, are they a dangerous prospect. And Shaiko is definitely looking dangerous today.
Really hard to get the shutout indeed. I imagine this is going to be attack timeout coming in for Wylde here. And understandably so. They need to find a way to keep on building something into this round now. That's the 3 in the row that they've lost on the bounce. And pretty handedly, it's probably as far as I'd describe it for BDS as well. Yes, round 1, they got absolutely slapped. Yes, Patbull hit the shot of his career to delete Shaiko from the server. But since then, it's been hard to see them really finding a way into this game. It feels like BDS are in control, as many expected to be the case. And they've got to try and figure a way through here. I think even getting a second round would be great for them to then switch sides and see how they do in the second half. But 1 is not going to be enough, I'm afraid. Not against BDS.
No, definitely not. As you say, it's just the gulf is starting to To just widen a little bit now, you can see BDS just, you know, hitting 2 nitro kills in that round. Again, it's about positioning, it's about timing, it's about game sense and understanding, and they're just showing how on top of it they are. Shaco, as I say, that confidence is just starting to roll now inside of this game. 5-1. How many times have we seen Shaco go from 5-1 to 10-1, 11-1, to, you know, and just put up silly numbers without that? It starts looking casual for him, and it doesn't matter who he's against. And right now, it's certainly a dangerous prospect ahead of Wylde.
Well, let's see how they can do in these next couple of rounds, and before we have that half-time switch. For BDS, it's been, again, a little bit of offside roaming, not too extravagant, I'd say, for the most part. Not covering across the entire map. I don't expect we'll see someone on the upstairs, for example. In fact, 4 of their players currently hovering around on the ground floor. We are defending down in that basement. Hatches are reinforced off, so not too much of an aggressive amount of play, I imagine, going on the upstairs. You probably have 3 players drop down, play on side of site, and just a couple more up there to waste a bit of time and pick up a couple of drones early in the round.
Of course, the coach for Wylde able to have a discussion with them. Nello, of course, former player. We've seen plenty of times in EUL. Has stepped over to be the coach. We saw the nitro come in. Shaco sends it out of the Maverick hole, and we have Leighton trying to do everything he can. And it's not actually going to be the sniper rifle that does the job for him. He flips to his secondary and manages to find a return fire through the Maverick hole, but the damage is done. BDS find 2. It's going to be Dodo. It's going to be Ball gone down. Maverick is off the board. That's their hard breach options done with. This is going to be a tough round from here.
I'm just not... I'm never 100% sure on the game plan, because a lot of these rounds, Wylde have brought the Maverick along, opened up a small slither of the wall, for example, and taken gunfights through it. Now, Shaco whiffed a couple of shots there, didn't quite find his man, and aptly so got domed back in reverse as well to make sure that the response was there. But outside of that, they've found really nothing with it. I don't think they were hoping to catch BDS off guard entirely, and that would be their way into the winning this round. But as it stands, as you're seeing right now, they're being bullied around the map, Tim. 4 players left alive, and BDS barely challenged in that round. But with only the 1 hard breacher on side, your attention then surely turns towards the upstairs, but you've got 2 players playing on the downstairs, the Maverick and the Glaz, of course. So they're a little bit split in what they're trying to do here, and I don't think really basing their play around one particular tactic or strategy. And this is just letting BDS have the run of the map and do, realistically, whatever the hell they please.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect a team like BDS to be caught out, but it's a classic sort of ranked combination. Maverick and Glaz, it's something that, and that's not to say that it doesn't have its place at pro play, of course it does, but it's common, you know. So as soon as lines start getting opened up in that wall, BDS are going to expect smokes, they're going to expect a Glaz on the other side of it, and what are they going to do? They're going to dump a nitro out through the wall, and it's going to do the job, because Glaz has got to be pretty close to those Maverick lines to be able to use them. As it wasn't Leighton on the Glaz got caught out, it was Packball on the Maverick. But yeah, it's just, again, it's a little bit telegraphed for me against a team like BDS. They're going to know what's coming, they're going to know to expect it, and they get the job done. So 4-1, well played BDS.
Alrighty. Now, what comes next then? Do we see the 5-1, which we're all anticipating, or do Wylde manage to pull off something a little bit special? Find out as we're up on this top floor defense. Shields being brought along and drop down, ready for a reinforced defense off. Of course, with no mirror on side, you might see a little bit more aggressive defenses coming out, should we say, overall. Again, knowing that BDS like to play around site, a lot of that will be based around these shields and around utility, rather than sat and hiding away behind these mirror windows, because at least in my opinion, that's what they're looking to do against Wylde. They're looking to bully them when they haven't got the mirror to be able to fall back on. Here we go with the start into this wall, though. Already the Maverick line across the bottom, no doubt on the back of the stairs as well. This side of the wall not being opened up here, and probably feeling then get away with this. Shaco feeling a little bit cheeky here. Is he feeling himself? Might well find himself one. No, just about misses out on his man.
Liquefact just getting really aggressive here on the breach. He's not going to be moved out of IT. He's going to be staying put on that breach. He thought about going for the bandit trick, but unfortunately for him, the Selma was placed on the opposite side. But I tell you what, Wylde, they've opened it. It's fine. It's a bit of phantom pressure, but BDS are not feeling the pressure. That's the problem right now, and Wylde may well presume that there's nobody playing inside of IT after that, because, you know, why would there be? The breach has been opened up, but Liquefact, he's just sitting waiting.
And why not? Wylde have got something opened up and they're not looked to play it. Why not look to use it back against them and catch them off guard to try and push their way back through a little bit later on? Does mean that Wylde have got to be pretty careful on their step forward here. Still got to face off against that clash that caused them so much bother last time round. Shaiko got 2 kills from playing around that shield of Brede. Just made it simply impossible for Wylde to get anything back onto the other side. Half the round has gone through, and Wylde are starting to get control here, making good use of the Nomad air jabs. 2 deployed down so far, but they've still got to find themselves an entry here. Some ability to get moving in, and that last air jab taken out there, not deploying in time.
Yep, Shaiko able to just take a quick and easy shot at it and just allow himself to stay in there. They've got the Zofia this time of Wylde in order to deal with the clash, so I like that adaptation. They've looked at what the problem was last time. They've recognized it. They've brought something as an alternative to deal with it. We see shots coming up through the floor. Leaker back down there. Nitro won't find anybody, but Shaiko does. He takes down Dodo. We can see the stun effect on the clash, but it's not gonna force Brede to move. 2 kills come in. Users, Leaker back. Wylde are keeping themselves in the fight, but it always feels like they're just swimming against the tide here, especially with that clash on side. They're going to try and put the diffuser down here, and Leighton, he might be able to stick this, Des.
What? How's it come down to the 1v1 and Free gets away with it? That's unbelievable. So much work being done from the IT door. And they were so scared of Brede as well as a clash should do. He was soaking up so much attention, but still managed to connect their shots and get the round closed out. By hook or by crook, and maybe a little bit of luck, they've walked away with it, but BDS there, they'll be kicking themselves. They couldn't convert that out at 5-1, but it gives some good breathing room over to the side of Wylde there. 2 rounds on the bounce, Tim. You never know what's going to happen in this second half.
No, absolutely not. I mean, BDS, in the last 5-10 seconds that round, BDS felt a little bit rattled. Wylde went in there and they managed to pin Brede back. They were using the Zofia gadgets well to, you know, prevent his movement and prevent him having too much of an impact. But Leighton just sees an opportunity to get the diffuser down, and it forces Brede to kind of drop the shield and go for the weapon, but they're in position to deal with that. And yeah, it just felt a little bit like, you know, I won't go so far as maybe panic setting for BDS, but it was certainly a bit of confusion going on, and Wylde took full advantage of that. Great stuff from them.
All right, second half, the side swap. We get to see a whole new game begin. And BDS, I think the one thing we could describe their attacks as is methodical. They're not this hyper-fast team like Wolves that we saw earlier on. They're not maybe quite as... I don't want to say they're not exciting, because they are very exciting and very satisfying to watch, but it's not as explosive as you might see from other teams. Again, that does not mean a bad thing. If nothing else, it is a good thing, because they are so composed when it comes to attacking. It can feel like you're fighting against 10 players at once. It can feel like they're coming out of the walls at the best of time, because they can be so in sync with one another. And that's what Wylde have got to face off against here. Of course, again, that mirror's been taken away. They don't have the ability to play safe behind that and see BDS come in. The first time they see them, it's probably the fair chance to say a gunfight is going to be ensuing around it. First bit of pressure comes in, a 1-for-1, a trade guaranteed as well. Freak does find Solotov, but Leakerback is right there ready to get the kill back for his team.
That's it. You just feel like, you know, Wylde maybe need to get that opening kill and consolidate on it as well. Get it locked down and keep that man advantage rather than losing on the trade, especially. Powerful, though, picking up the blitz. Not the end of the world. Get rid of that shield. Just such a magnet for attention that's not going to be there. So difficult to deal with at times. But right now, BDS, a minute into the round, are really starting to clear out a lot of utility. But Leakerfact taking a lot of damage from, I think, inside of sight there, just on that long angle. I think it was sort of baffled him for a moment there. He thought it might be lower warehouse, but ultimately no, it was Dodo just looking down this long angle, and he's looking for almost a replica of Blackbull's shot from earlier.
I was about to say he might find it if he keeps on trying his luck. Leakerback, as you say, is down to 37. One more bullet would have been more than enough to see him finished off. Still trying to hold into this angle, but instead going to rotate his way out towards Aqua, but must surely know that there is a player sat round here waiting. Shotgun at the ready as well. Got to be really careful and respectful of that.
Yeah, especially on such low health, it's going to take a tickle from that shotgun to take Leaker back down. So it's going to be Brede that takes over that position on the catwalk then to continue the push from warehouse. But 2 minutes gone here, and Wylde are set up well, and they're holding back BDS here. BDS have tried a couple of different pressure points here. They've tried to aggress on in and take a little bit of sight, but it's just not happening right now. Packbull, he manages to find a nice kill. 4 versus 3 as Wylde. They dig their heels in and say, we're not going to be moved here on the top floor.
This pistol might be enough to finish off the line if he steps too far back here. They've got to be really respectful of Packbull and the fact that he's dug in so deep. Brede might find one for himself, but yet again, they're just trying to slither their way up catwalk, Tim. this and IT, I don't think are really enough to fully pull this off. And sure enough, Patbull is going to pick them apart as they get ever so close. Usus gets one back into a 2 versus 2. Which way this goes is anyone's guess.
BDS are just having to rely on gunfights at this point. As you say, they don't really have enough in terms of site control to think about getting a diffuser or really taking space. But the problem is that BDS are very well capable of relying on gunfights as Usus goes in and brings it from a 2v2 to a 2v1. But Brede is down. Usus goes for his last man, but Dodo, he stands tall and finds the kill in Electrical, closes it out for Wylde, and they bring themselves back within 1.
I think, honestly, a lot of the work there, a lot of the pressure came from Patbull, just sat inside behind that dash, just watching on the drone hole, watching on the push forward. Yes, he eventually dies to Aqua, but it took so long for BDS to figure out that that was really their play, and it all came off the back of Usus. He was the one who got a 2K in towards the closing parts of that round. Outside of that, BDS just looked outdone. They had IT, they had Catwalk. That was all they really had. And all we saw from Wylde was them staring every single gun down towards those 2 areas, ready to collapse onto anyone who tried to push in through one of the doorways or through the rotates in the wall. Really good stuff. Very composed from Wylde. 4-3. It's already looking better for Wylde than many would have anticipated before this game got underway.
I think there's been a lot of promise. I think, you know, like you said, there's been good sort of management of the game. Like you say, understanding Patbull, just recognizing his position and the power of it there and playing it really well. And, you know, what I mean by that is, Wylde just not getting carried away, not thinking, oh, this is a, you know, snatching at rounds because they feel like, oh, we're close to getting this. So we're just going to grab at it. We're going to chase the kills. We're going to go for it. They know they don't need to. They know that BDS don't have enough, and they know that they can't take it whilst they're in those positions. So, yes, it was close. BDS are always going to make rounds close because they're going to pick up kills. But Wylde just nice, calm, collected, held on, confident in what they had, and used it well. Good stuff from them.
Right, Gary's going to be at least a starting point of aggression here, and Freak's the one trying to put a little bit of name around storage and around Garage itself. Enough to kind of chew out a couple of drones, I imagine, then slip his way back in towards the shadows of Nighthaven Labs. For BDS, obviously hoping to try and collapse onto him before that becomes a reality. But the Solus as well, of course, changes aren't yet live, waiting for that new season to go through before we see those coming through. First call coming out here as well from Usus. So also worth noting as well, 3 players on BDS have got the Kebby in their top 3 most played operators. No surprise at all to see that 3 different players picking it up so far in this game. This round, it's Usus on those duties, and the first call has been used. The second one now about to come out as well.
What an absolute beauty of an opening kill from Solotov there, just looking through that angle and just finding his man. But Croc Layton managed to find a 2-piece between them to get it back again. That late trade, Usus manages to pick up Layton, 3 versus 3. BDS, though, they're going to be on the negative side of that because whilst Wylde can hold on and keep it at a level man count, it will be more difficult for the attackers because whilst this all happens, they're losing utility that they need for this push. The book is gone. So that loses them a lot of verticality. Croc manages to pick up Shaiko, finishing him off with the pistol. 3 versus 2. No option really for verticality beyond what the Ace can provide with the Selma chargers, which is not much, opening a hatch. Wylde, they're looking pretty good right now for leveling this up.
You've got to hold up against 2. We've got really nothing to throw at you here. A single drone between them. No more calls left. No more hard breach. No flashes to make use of as well. This is as good a chance as any to be able to, I think, collapse down onto Wylde here and onto BDS and try and do some damage as they come in for their execute. It's looking like a drop might be a thing. They've still got a little bit of breaching rounds they can use for the vertical, but I don't know it's going to be enough. Patbull's found Usus here. What a game he's having, by the way. Up to 7 and 6. One of our top fraggers in the server so far, and it's all down to Brede, who's got to bring it on against 3.
He's playing really well, 7 and 6 Patbull, and the kills are influential. They're important kills at big moments. And again, another good round from Wylde. They level things up 4-4. Like you say, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people sat watching who may be a little bit surprised by this. You know, they'll have said coming in that, you know, we expect BDS to have a comfortable win. It was said on the desk beforehand that BDS need to have a comfortable win here. They're staking a claim to be one of the best teams in the world. And yet, here Wylde is, standing tall, with a new roster and taking them the distance on a map that BDS are generally very, very good on. This is impressive stuff from Wylde, and there's going to be other EUL teams that are sat watching this thinking, we need to be careful against this team.
Yes. It's all I can say to that. Yes. It's kind of baffling to think, because again, we've all said, and you've heard on the desk, you've heard all the build up to the show today, BDS, one of, if not the strongest team in the world right now. Yes, it was Beast Coast who we saw come out on top recently at the recent major, but I think BDS is still the one that everyone's looking at and saying is the team to beat if you go into an international stage. And for a team that many have, again, looked at and said, okay, it's the kind of pull together of a bunch of players that no one else really wanted. Wylde are standing up and definitely making themselves heard here, so no big surprise that it's BDS with this TAC timeout. They need to get things back on track. Otherwise, before you know it, BDS are losing their opening play day to Wylde, and they are going to be kicking themselves that they couldn't start things out on absolute fire. A few nice shots coming through, absolutely. But when it really came down to it, it was Wylde that are the ones that are coming out on top, and they are standing toe-to-toe with some of the best gunners in the world.
Yep, absolutely. And like you've said, you know, Pac Bull has been pretty influential so far in a number of these rounds. It's going, you know, really well for him. I don't know how much his position within the team has changed. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that Leighton's the RGL. So, you know, maybe where Pac Bull has sort of been involved in calling and stuff before, if that's the case, then, you know, maybe the shackles are off a little bit and it's just Pac Bull go kill. And right now, he's certainly getting himself a couple of them. Wylde, they need to consolidate on what they've got now. It's 4-4. They've leveled it up. You know, they need to not let the matchup get away from them. Don't get carried away with it. You know, yes, this is a great performance against a very good BDS side. Don't let that get in your head. Just continue doing what you're doing. You're pointing in the right direction. Just got to keep on walking.
Make a really good point on the RGL side of things as well. I think most people would agree that trying to talk about what you're doing or directing others while you're playing the game and trying to focus on your own gameplay is really hard, because you're thinking about 2 or 3 different things at once at any given time. So there may be some very fair credit to that team. Having someone else on the team who's being the RGL and making the calls may well unlock Pac Bull. Of course, can't guarantee it that it'll carry on every single play day, but at least for today, things are looking good. Shaiko starting out the entry though, getting rid of Dodo, that bandit offline, which also means a C4, I imagine, removed from the field as well. In fact, did he have barbed? I think he had barbed. Yes, he had barbed.
5 versus 4. Then advantage BDS. Wylde have been pretty good at getting the trades so far, but this time BDS able to keep themselves the advantage there. Pot shots being taken from outside of RT. Not going to find any ankles, not going to find anybody that they can impact on. Instead, we're going to launch a couple of Candelas on into sight and see if we can get any takers. But look at this. I think the sound was just covering Leakifac's approach, but he misses his shots onto who else but Pac Bull, who slams him with an instant headshot, activates the glasses on the warden, and is again in a key, critical position to hold BDS out of storage.
Absolute stinker as well, like getting dead to rights, and Pac Bull still flicked and found his man. But the biggest problem there, in my opinion, is that BDS weren't looking to play together. The Candelas came through after the push had already come through. It was too late there. No one was going to follow through and try and dive it in from there. And so Pac Bull is becoming the raid boss, gets the C4 over the top. The Ying is down the deck as well. There is one man left standing. Tim, Wylde are about to win 3 defensive rounds in a row against BDS. Not a line that I thought I'd say today.
Absolutely not. I'm sure there'll be, you know, a lot of people out there that will be surprised. But what I will say is you may be surprised before the matchup. Unfortunate there, timing. Just going to flash himself on the way in. Breed is going to be picked up. But yeah, you know, before the matchup, you could be forgiven anybody, you know, for expecting a strong BDS performance, a strong BDS showing here. But I don't think it would be fair to say that having seen the performances in front of us, that the scoreline is actually overly surprising. Because Wylde, at least for the last few rounds, certainly have been the better team. Pac Bull doing a fantastic job in there. Like you say, you know, I think, yeah, the Candelas kind of covered up the sound of Leakifac's approach, but we're a little bit early for him. He wasn't quite there, and so he still has a freebie onto the warden. Should have got that kill all day long, but no, Pac Bull just wheels around, just whips across and takes him out. Absolutely beautiful stuff.
More of that, please. This is making for a very entertaining first day. We had a great couple of first games. We saw G2 dominance coming out in game 3 to remind us that they are still here and still a threat. And now that crown that many have already placed atop BDS's head is very quickly starting to slip. Yes, they're only a round behind, but Tim, they're still behind to a team that, again, many had written off and said had no chance coming up against BDS. 5-4 to Wylde, defense on the top floor.
And the thing is, you know, from Wylde's perspective, I sort of feel like maybe they can play without pressure. They're a new roster that's come together. Everybody coming in, no matter who it is that's playing BDS, is saying, oh, BDS is going to win that. So if the expectations are already there, it kind of takes a lot of the pressure off. You know, from a Wylde perspective, just turn up and play your game. Just do what you want to do. You know, at the end of the day, if these guys weren't confident that they can win games, that they can beat teams, that they can, you know, take on the best players in the world, then they wouldn't have made it to this point. They wouldn't be playing Tier 1 Siege. And it's certainly showing that they're, you know, happy to go in and stand toe-to-toe. And right now, that's what they're doing. We're going to see an attack onto the top floor here from BDS, who desperately just need, I don't mean slow things down in terms of pace necessarily, but just in terms of momentum for Wylde. BDS really need to be taking around here, get themselves leveled back up and just start sort of asserting a little bit of dominance again over this matchup.
Really starting to sting them is all I can say. I think looking at, like I mentioned that last round with the pushing towards storage to try and get rid of Patbull, it was a little bit isolated. It was one man making a move. The Ying Candelas were all out of time and out of whack, and they didn't manage to get off the team play that was so used to seeing BDS pull together, which makes you start to worry. Is that what's seeing them kind of slip a bit here? And a Wylde just expertly navigating through that and picking off players wherever they can. Just like here, Solotov's gone down. Yes, they got rid of Patbull, but it's an attacker offline, and the Grim too. What a pick to find early in the round, Tim.
Well, Freak deserves a shout as well because he picks up the trade there. He's 8 and 7 and he's putting some work in alongside Patbull. You know, yes, Patbull's had a great game and we keep shouting about him, but there are other players on Wylde. We've spoken about it all night about how you need 4 or 5 players chipping in on kills, all delivering. And right now, that is happening for Wylde across the board. They are all getting involved and it's certainly paying dividends for them. So 4 versus 4, it stands at the minute and 1 minute left on the clock. BDS, again, not really in a position yet to put that diffuser down. Breeder is always one of the players who's going to come away with an absolute ton of plants in a stage, but so far today on the attack, there hasn't really been many clear opportunities for him. As it stands, they're going to try and brute force their way in, but it's just not working, Des.
It's not. They've lost basically everything at this point, and they'll find the closing shots as well. Wylde are up to match point. Not a lot of thoughts say today, Tim.
BDS are rattled right now. There's no other way of putting it. They've just got to a point with 30 or 40 seconds left where they've just tried to brute force their way into sight. Breeder's just gone in and he's had users, I think it was, following him. And it feels like they're just getting to the point of, right, we're just going to have to win this with gun skill. We're just going to have to go in and brute force it. But guess what? You're not going to win it because Wylde are standing tall and they're soaking up the damage, they're soaking up the danger, and they're dishing it back out.
To go toe-to-toe with BDS is not something really many teams can claim to be able to do. And for Wylde to be the team to be able to do that on day 1 of stage 2 is absolutely massive for them. Admittedly, like you say, a little bit all in from BDS there, just really hoping that they could flood in and overwhelm Wylde, who maybe might not quite have the communication depth that BDS have built up over the last year or so. Of course, they changed from speaking in French to speaking in English now, but it's fair to say after the last event, a lot of that synergy is already built in. But they're going toe-to-toe with them, Tim, like I say. 2-round deficit for BDS. Can they get it back over the line here? I'm not so sure.
I tell you what, Wylde need one more round and they've not got a bad sight for it, Des. They're down in the basement in tank now. We saw them play it in round 8. Solotov picked up the opening kill and Wylde was still able to get the successful defense done. As I remember, they managed to take the Buck down particularly. We don't have Buck on side this time. It's going to be Ram instead. But they need to make sure that they're getting that vertical work done because it didn't happen last time around when BDS were attacking this site. And it just, you know, it really wasn't the play for them. EMP goes out. That's going to allow the wall to be opened up into Animus at least. So good start from BDS. 35 seconds in. They've started the utility game. They've started just applying a little bit of pressure to Wylde. And that's a good pickup there on that drone. Just spotting the feet so they know that there's somebody playing around cargo.
Just sheer nature of that wall being opened up applies a little bit of pressure. Look back to the first half that we were talking about and saying, well, get the Maverick wall slightly opened up. It gives BDS the ability to shoot back. Not really able to get a wall open off the back of it. By contrast, BDS have just gone for a full opening there to try and apply a little bit of pressure onto Wylde as the defenders, knowing they can't easily play around Animus anymore. That opens it up for a potential drop later into the round, but Tim, later in the round, doesn't really seem to be going BDS's way so far for the most part. Now we've got ourselves focused out towards the far east side with the round trying to get things opened up. BDS just being really careful here and trying to make sure they're not going to find themselves getting stung by Wylde, pulling off some crazy stuff, just trying to give themselves the best simple chance they can to get this one over the line. I don't believe there are any roamers upstairs. I've just seen one off the top right corner of my screen, which suggests that Wylde could yet pull off a pretty nasty backstab if this carries on. I believe it's at the top of cargo stairs.
Smart play from Leakyfact there. He just threw that that last boogie drone in so that he could go under cover of the noise down Exo stairs, and it's worked. They've no idea, I don't think, that Leakyfact is in as deep as he is. They are aware that there's some on Exo stairs, but Leakyfact's in a position to really hurt them potentially. Solotov sees one, can't find the kill. This is looking difficult for Wylde. They've been pinned back into sight. The kills start coming in. Solotov double users, gets one, 4v2, diffuser down, and in a matter of seconds, BDS remind Wylde that they still have teeth and they know how to use them.
That was a much more BDS level attack as well. Yeah. Beautiful checklist, making very little to no room for error and just accounting for absolutely everything. They had the verticals, they had flank drones going down, they had crossfires onto 2 or 3 different angles there, they had potential flanks covered to where the execute spot was going down. There was basically nothing that Wylde could do there without first having to win a couple of gunfights to even have a chance of getting a C4 onto the plant that was going down. Far more composed, far more convincing. Where has that BDS been across the last few rounds? Because now they've got to do it again to even be in with a shot at overtime, Tim, let alone even think about winning the map.
I mean, who'd have thought that BDS would be fighting for overtime, you know, realistically? And you could have put them against anybody today. Literally, you could have put them against anybody in EUL, and I'd been saying the same thing. You know, BDS are at that point where there is a lot of pressure, there is a lot of expectation, because the expectation is there for them to win every single game. And they're certainly showing at the minute that they are human. They can still, don't get me wrong, hit their shots, do their damage. They just showed us that in the last round. But they are certainly beatable as well. And Wylde looking like they could still go on and do that. They're going to be heading into round 12. We've got all of regulation here. And this time they're going to be trying to hold on to top floor, but the site is going to be underneath that. It's going to be a storage site.
Almost in March then. Let's see if anything else comes off the back of this. It's feeling a little bit ropey. I was quite curious actually to see what the prediction was like in Twitch chat for this. And interestingly, 15% of people did back Wylde. One hell of a payday coming out if it goes that way in Twitch chat. We'll find out, no doubt, after the end of this round if it's still going to be up in the air. Overtime could yet still await us. It will be the first one of the evening. Everything else has ended in regulation. Solotov has already found himself falling down here as well. Frack picking him up quite quickly early on. And that's the buck taken offline. Vertical destruction removed.
Yeah, big start for Wylde there, and they can just sit back. It's like I said, when you start losing attackers, you start losing utility, but you start losing a little bit of onus because you're the one who's got to go against the clock. We're going to have the Rotero drones going to be used to open up the soft wall instead, so whilst the book was lost, it doesn't matter too much. There is at least an alternative, but Breck is going to be continuing in that catwalk position. He's got the Kiba barricades, and he needs to be cleared out. BDS, they have to come forward. They have to win this gunfight. I don't know if he's aware that he's going to be snuck up on here, but out comes the Kiba barricade, but it's left a little bit of a line through, and if he's not aware of that, he's going to find himself getting taken down quickly.
There's one more coming up as well on warehouse stairs as well. They might be able to find the back of that one. They see him flash in front of them, but nothing to be found. So far, so good. They've danced around these 2 phone calls coming in from the Decay Beast, and not a bad start at all from the side of Wylde. Yes, they lose Frack in the process, but it's still a 4 versus 4. And that's the worst of the utility done and out the way. This now becomes a firefight, Tim.
Yeah, great patience from Shaco there. He knew that the opportunity was going to present itself to take this army down and levels things up 4 versus 4. But with 50 seconds left to go, BDS need to get moving. And as I say that, Shaco steps up, manages to find himself a second in the round, taking down Dodo, and it creates a lot of space for BDS. It gives them that top floor, and Wylde now are going to be holding on for a desperate last 35 seconds just to try and keep BDS at bay.
That big question of can they keep them away? Yes, they've got the numbers disadvantage, but they're on the defensive side. Plant is going down. Is the cross here for the side of BDS? I don't think it is. Leakyfat finds one. They come up at the C4 from below. No, it's a shotgun from below. Leakyfat into a second. It's all down to Leighton by himself on the downstairs. He's going to have no joy here. Plant is going down from BDS, and he's got 4 players to deal with. Tim, I hope you're ready to say that line, because that's where we're going.
We are going to overtime, Des. It wouldn't have been a first play day had we not. And out of all the games I would have picked to take us there, it wouldn't have been the last one of the day. But as I say, both teams have staked their claim for this one. It's, I think, fair outcome for them both to walk away with some points, which is what will be the case now. Rather than 3 points to the winner and 0 for the loser, it will be 2 for the winner and 1 for the loser. I think, you know, BDS may well look at this and think it's a potential dropped point if they do come away with the win, but Wylde have been good. They've been able to hold on to key areas and make BDS's life difficult, but the last couple of rounds just suggest that BDS have really switched on and dialed back in.
Bomb located by attackers.
All right, and they carry on that momentum by staying on the attack inside here as well. So round 13 they'll attack, round 15 they'll attack if it's required. In round 14, if they win the defense, the game is done. 8-6. BDS walk away the winner. And that would feel so bitter for Wylde, I imagine, who have put many of us to the wrong. I was sat here saying, look, this is the funeral, boys. Get yourselves ready, get your finest suits on. We're putting Wylde in that coffin by the time that this game is done. It would have been over pretty quickly if things had gone according to plan. But Wylde, I think, have definitely shown that these changes they've made can work some real wonders. It's not like it's 1 or 2 players popping off as well. The whole team has got themselves involved in this game in some way, shape, or form. And it's looking good. It puts a lot of promise on them for future games. It's far from done yet. But they definitely could turn around and say, well, we proved all the haters wrong. And what a C4 to find users at the start. That's the thermite offline, Tim. A dream start to find before even a single wall has been touched.
BDS, it's the oldest trick in the book. The nitro out of electrical window, over the edge of the stairs there. You know, it's a great one from Packbull. He's absolutely nailed the throw on it, and he's taken users out at the beginning of the round. Not just users, but he's taken the thermite out. Like, what a loss that is. They've still got the Maverick of BDS, but things just got a lot more difficult for BDS in the first round of overtime.
It did. I mean, that could be the start the Wylde need as well. Get this round on the board, and that pressure there is for BDS for the next couple of rounds. And if you lose this one, that's it. You're chalked. Game is done. And just when it feels like the French side, our French and English mix and Turkish mix, they've got everything together coming now. Just when it feels like maybe there's a little bit of stability starting to be formed, like you say, that entry kill could yet prove to be everything for them. Well, for now, just waiting to see what comes next. BDS are the ones who have got to make the front step forwards. Half the round has already elapsed at this point. There's no Dekebi on side as well, which they lean on and crutch on an awful lot. I know they're a great team, Tim, but they do lean on that operator one hell of a lot. And I worry that without it, they won't be able to put the pressure here onto Wylde and find themselves a couple of kills.
Wylde have already won this top floor site twice in their defenses. BDS did not have a successful attack up here, so they're going to have to book that trend if they want to get themselves anything. 1 minute 10 left to go, trying to get some joy out of that same angle that they found Frecon previously. It's not going to be the case this time. The catwalk is clear, and Wylde have got themselves locked into sight with 5 left alive. BDS are starting to circle like sharks, sensing blood in the water, but it doesn't matter, because the shark gets bitten as Leighton manages to find Shaiko. 5 versus 3 now, as Wylde could well give themselves another match point opportunity.
Absolutely bonkers. The waves of up and down that we've seen in this game. Leakyfat not finding the shots, and Dodo brings him out as well. Far from going extinct like the Dodos themselves, is keeping himself going, keeping his team cooking. 2 more to go. Solitop finding 1. Immediate trade by Leighton. Wylde are about to go up to match point yet again, Tim. They've only got to find 1 more in the next couple, and this one's done.
It's just been great how they've broken BDS's sort of momentum and spirit more than once now. They did it round about the middle of the game when BDS had come out really, really strong. And then, yeah, Wylde had a really good run of rounds, but then BDS came back at them, round 11, round 12. And I did wonder, going into overtime now, how are Wylde going to react to that? They've had 2 tough rounds there where BDS really got themselves back into it. But again, they've just shown great character. They've stood up and they've come back and got that next defense. They've locked it down on the top floor, and they will now have 2 opportunities to close this match out.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. The key thing now is that for the first time in 7 rounds, we get the side swap again. Get to see Wylde being the one that now step across to being on the attack and BDS on the defense. A welcome respite coming out for BDS, or an opportunity for the side of Wylde to get this one done and dusted. Time will tell. And I feel on the attack, I'll come back to what I said earlier on, they rely a hell of a lot on the Maverick. They like getting these little slithers of wall opened up and using that to put pressure on towards the BDS side. BDS are very used to that, as we saw. They had the response, they were able to start fighting back through it, and that then left the side of Wylde a little bit short on options. But they've kind of gone for a very BDS-esque composition here, looking at it, Tim. No thermite on side, but you've got the double soft breach from above coming in the form of the Ram and the Buck. The Dekebi on side as well to cause a little bit of bother. And maybe a little bit less common. You normally see a Nomad coming out for BDS, for example. You've got the Gridlock coming along here as well. So it screams to me they want this vertical control. That means clearing the map. So then the BDS have really, I'd say, given up mostly for free. They haven't been super aggressive on their contests as we've seen so far around the map. But I just think if you give them the time to get set up here, Wylde could really look to do some work. And there's the first one they need. Solotov, second entry death in a couple of rounds here. It's not been ideal for him.
No, tough day, particularly at the back end of it, as you say, just dipping out of rounds quite early, and Wylde taking advantage again of that. 5 versus 4. Leakenbach has played this role a couple of times, kind of sneaking his way into positions. We've seen it, you know, countless times over the last 12 months from him, really, but he's just in that position once again. He's kind of tried to keep himself off the radar, sneak himself to the top of the reception stairs there on the meeting corridor, but they are well aware of his position here, and as you can see, they're going to go and challenge him here, and Croc looks for the alternative angle, but unsurprisingly, Leakenbach with the pressure mountain says, you know what, I'm out of here. But if they can hold down that flank and make sure that he's not able to come back and hurt them, there's a potential to just leave him out in the cold, and they know that they're pushing site 5 versus 3. However, Useless manages to find a big kill onto Packball.
Yeah, it feels like they were so involved here in trying to get rid of one that they get caught out by the other angle. Yeah, they almost managed to collapse onto him as well. Really good movement and pace coming out from Wylde there. They knew what they wanted and they were going so hard for it. But BDS just managing to dodge around here. Still brings us down to a 4 versus 4. Shot out pretty early on there. I don't know if it was Leakenbach or someone else underneath that managed to get rid of it. But either way, hasn't gone the full distance. Maybe shot out by themselves here just to give them enough of an angle to watch down without destroying the entirety of the floor. But they've got that vertical control they need, Tim. They've got the Buck online. They've got the Ram on side. All they need here to open this up like a sardine can is ready to go.
55 seconds left on the clock. Diffuser is down on the ground at the minute, but nearby, I think. So not a major problem for Wylde as they start to work with these vertical angles, trying to push BDS around in sight, but they just need to make sure that they don't let this get away from them. Now down to 40 seconds. Need to start doing some more work. Shaco, he manages to find Freck, takes him down. 4 versus 3, advantage BDS. And with time ticking by, even the verticality in their possession might not be enough here for Wylde to get this one done.
I'm not sure if they panicked a bit there, but they weren't quite in sync in getting that opening up. Otherwise, it was a freebie on towards Shaiko. Just maybe a little bit excited as we got towards the last 40 seconds, and that opportunity, that taste of bringing down BDS was very firmly on their lips. 3 left standing, 2 on their feet here with guns up. 4 players on the BDS side. They've got to make a move. A C4 comes through and they get the stop. That's exactly what they were looking for. Won't be able to stick this one as it's the last one left alive. 3 on the side of BDS. They'll get the close here with a final C4. They've always got a second one in back pocket. And Tim, we're going all the way to 15 to decide who wins this game. What a way to end play day 1.
What a matchup it's been. You know, it's been so competitive between these two. Both had big moments. That was a nice defense from BDS there. Just using the nitros again, using those explosives has been something that they've excelled at during this game, BDS. It's one of the things we don't always sort of shout out too much, but, you know, operators have this kit. They have these explosives. They have, you know, whether it be flashbangs, soft breach, whatever it might be. If that is your operator, attack or defense, you've got to be an expert. You've got to be great with every piece of kit that they bring with you, because something like nitros, something like explosives like that, they're free kills. You very rarely putting yourself at any risk to get that kill. You're very rarely being shot at when you get that kill. So BDS, you know, showing a great mastery of that utility like that has been great for them throughout the game. But Wylde, on the flip side, they've shown, you know, great spirit. They've a number of times had to stop the momentum of BDS and come back at them, stand tall, win gunfights with, let's be honest, some of the most mechanically gifted players in the game at times. And they've done that. They've stood toe-to-toe with them. So both sides have shown, you know, some really great characteristics through this game. And it's been pure entertainment throughout. I've loved this game.
Hasn't it just? Yeah, and now you've got to see which way it all comes down to one round. It's like every other round before it, no longer important. We're basically playing a little best of one here with Wylde on the defense and BDS on the attack. Going over towards a very cookie-cutter attack, I'd say, lineup coming out of BDS. Again, that the Kebby coming out on side. A lot of vertical destruction when they need it in the form of the Ram. And then a lot of drones coming out in the form of the Twitch and coming in from the Brava at the same time. Probably looking out here to get rid of those cap cans as best they can, get a few jammers out of the way, really try and cause some bother, and taking a little bit of a lick out of Wylde's book as well. They've got themselves trying to go for a similar story onto the main breach itself, using the Maverick to get some of these bullet holes open up so they can start looking to challenge inside of sight when the execute comes through. But think about the last time around they executed into the default plant spot. Having someone on that wall was absolutely pivotal. It stopped any kind of cross coming through. It prevented C4s. So that Maverick being in that spot is the key place to be as this round plays out.
Just looking to roam up to that window, ignoring the boogie drone, ignoring that Ram gadget, just again to try and maybe cover their own presence there. See if they can pick up a cheap kill onto the window, but it will not be the case. 1 minute 45, so almost halfway through the round here. Still 5 versus 5. Neither team wanting to overcommit at this point.
Croc, man.
Just trying to keep themselves in it as long as possible. The timing, so unfortunate.
Honestly, a second sooner, and he manages to get rid of the man there as well. The C4 came through, didn't quite manage to find him, and he sees the head as well. No, Freck! Frozen in fear, arguably, as the BDS tide continues to roll on forward. A 5v3. Last phone call ringing out from the Dekebi at the same time, and Wylde have got to hold on for dear life here, Tim.
And it's going to be a tough one to hold on to, because BDS, with the bit between their teeth, they know now that this victory is close. 1 minute left to go. It is still up to them to push it forward and get the job done. But you'd have to say in a 5 versus 3, this is going to be a big upset, a big throw if BDS don't get this done. Then Dodo is up on the upper floor. Is he able to get a big flank off here? Breedy manages to take down Packbull. There comes the flank. Croc manages to pick up Leak Effect. Dodo cannot support at the minute. 2 versus 4. Plant going down. BDS have it all to lose now. It is theirs. This one almost certainly.
Tolotov has gone in towards a count cam though, and it's now down to a 2v2, Tim. You say it's theirs to lose. They're on path to do that. Breedy and Usage have got to hold off here against Dodo and against Croc. They've got so much to do, and they've found one more. It's the finish off down to a 1v2. Dodo, the new boy's got it all to do against the final 2 players of BDS. Right sort of idea. Hits a shot, but not enough to see him finished off. Off towards his right-hand side is the right sort of idea, but there's also one off towards his left. Gonna have to chase him down here, Tim, and there's no time left. We're down to 11 seconds. He won't find it. Users will get BDS over the line, but no one will dare say that Wylde were not within an inch of taking that game away from BDS.
Absolutely not. BDS closing it out well at the end, doing everything they needed to do. It was nice to see them getting that diffuser down, not chasing kills, just locking in, close out that game. But Wylde, what a performance from them. They've certainly played their part. We've gone all the way to 15 there. It was unexpected, we have to say it, but Wylde have turned up, and I think, as I said, there's going to be EUL teams there thinking maybe we need to reevaluate this.
I think there's definitely going to be more teams looking at Wylde and not saying freebie, and more teams just like, oh my God, this is going to be hard, right? Like some of the teams that we've seen play today with the flaws they've had, you come up against a team like Wylde, I can 100% see Wylde taking a good few scouts in this stage if they keep on playing like they did today. That was a performance, and no one can dare say otherwise. That was a performance deserving of a top 4 team as well. You're coming up against one of the best in the world and playing like that, bringing them to like a 1v2 of their life. Very impressive, and I really hope that carries on, because being honest, Wylde were a team that I wasn't very excited about this stage. I didn't really think we were going to see much compared to other teams, but they've delivered, and that now means we've got a full 9-team league where I hope we have a really competitive EUL stage moving forwards.
Absolutely, like you say, you know, Wylde were. It's not just about the outcome of the game. It's not just about taking BDS to all 15 rounds. They were so entertaining whilst doing it. I loved watching it. You know, you find yourself as a neutral, I'm sure, like, it would have been difficult not to back Wylde there. You know, they were so much fun, hitting great shots, and they were willing to take the fight. They were playing with confidence. They weren't playing scared. They were happy to go and get in the faces and take gunfights. Brilliant to see. Really enjoyed it.
Well, I really hope that continues. But for now, let's get over to the desk. I'm sure they've got tons to say over there about this game as well. So let's go to them now.
Desdenis, thank you very much. You were wonderful today. And what a wonderful way to end Play Day 1. You could see it really summed it all up. Shaiko's head in his hands laughing at the end there because he knew he only just got away with it by the skin of his teeth. If he didn't see his tweet, his X, whatever you want to call it, go check it out right now because he thought, alongside the rest of his team, that this was going to be a breeze. It was not. Wylde put up one hell of a fight.
And it started with the very first round by getting one tap by Packbull. But it's crazy. I mean, when you see his
Who
tweet...
says Packbull can't shoot?
Yeah, I mean, when you see Shaiko's tweet from today, how confident he was, I'm for sure he did not expect that kind of resistance. I don't think anyone expected that kind of resistance, speaking of Wylde. And I'm so happy we were wrong. I'm so happy that we see a competitive Wylde here. I'm so happy to see tier 2 players put together, playing under one vision, one direction, being able to go toe-to-toes with a team that we considered 10 minutes ago the best team in the world.
The reason that I predicted BDS and I thought this game was going to be such a storm wasn't to do with Wylde.
No.
It was more to do with BDS, how good they were at the Esports World Cup, how well they played through Manchester Major and stage 1 of this competition, right? And if you consider all of that, they are the best team in the world right now, and they were going up against a team of unknowns. So that it wasn't a slight on Wylde.
You never once said this roster's not good enough.
No.
Up against BDS.
What I said was we simply didn't know.
Yes.
This was two players who, in terms of Wylde, you know, kind of left the team in the summer and then came back to form a new team for stage 2. We didn't know what Leighton's IGLing was going to bring us. We didn't know how Dodo was going to play, how Freck was going to play, how Croc was going to play. We didn't know Pat could shoot and one-tap to Shaiko the same way he did. We knew he was creative, sure, but we didn't know what Wylde was going to present us. And what they presented us was a performance that was full of heart. It was full of soul. It was basic Siege. It was together. It wasn't quite enough because BDS can just outfrag anybody if they have to, and they had to, but it was excellent.
I mean, look, it's BDS won. And the obvious thing to do here is always to highlight the winner. But I think on this rare occasion, we really do have to continue to shine a spotlight on the losers here because it's not a true losing effort, is it?
No, especially over time, especially against a team that was that dominant against the best teams in the world only a few weeks ago. When you're coming from the record that Wylde had, you know, they had a 12% win rate coming into this stage.
That was one game.
That was, yeah, they won one game out of all of 2024.
Yeah.
So I think coming into this, obviously they had not a lot of expectations, but also a lot of people looking at them and thinking, how can they rebuild? Especially with so many unknown players. And I think here, it's a start, it's just one game, but that gives me a lot of hope for this roster, really.
And I know that one man we're all going to be keeping an eye on going forward for sure is Packbull after that performance there. Let's take a look at some of his numbers. Leo.
I think what's very interesting about this guy is actually the fact that he did that without being the in-game leader, Jack.
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, we talk about Packbull as a support player. We talk about him, you know, being an IGL, but actually he's handed over the reins to Leighton. And I think Packbull might be able to flourish just in a backline role, being a supportive shot caller. I thought he was excellent today. I think the way he set up the first game was, the first round with this one tap, was absolutely excellent. He was taking very, very confident plays, very confident and aggressive gunfights. And this isn't necessarily what we know of Packbull. We know him as a much more supportive player. So even though he was on the losing team, I did just want to give him a shout out for that reason.
Yeah, and this guy's been around for a long time as well in different places when it comes to Siege. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of him fresh, aren't you?
Me too.
But now it's time to speak to a member of the winning team. You know him, you love him. BDS's LickyFac joins us right now. LickyFac, what happened out there? That was a series, I mean, that was a matchup I don't think you were expecting.
Hello guys, yeah, no, that was a really, really hard match. Like, we didn't have any info on Wylde. That's the hardest part. And also there is a lot of young players like who want to prove. So playing against us first play day was like, okay, we have nothing to lose, and they have everything to lose. So I think we got surprised, and they play really, really well.
I think it's a very good summary to put things. I think it's very also hard for you to prepare when you don't know anything about the roster. Even for ourselves, like preparing this desk, we're like, we don't know these guys, so how do you know what to expect? I just wanted to talk to you about your win at EWC. I think in general, I see this theme from teams that win big events and then they go back to their regular stage, and it's quite hard to get back in that footing. Speaking of TSM or other teams that won big events and going into it, what was your momentum? What were you thinking going into this stage after such a big win?
No, like we got scared now.
Yeah.
Okay, we got deletion, almost lose to the worst team last stage. So now we are focused, like really focused on our goal, and it's like a warning for us. Tomorrow we have to be much better to win against G2.
Licky Fack, I'm pretty sure that you saw Shaiko's tweet, right? What do you make of that now?
No, the fun fact why we left after winning is that during stream we're like, okay guys, we are going to lose 8-7 against Wylde, we don't need to scream anyway, we are going to luse 8-7, and losing 4-6, going 6-6, and after going 7-6, we were like, no, we didn't say it of course, but we were like, no, and Shaiko tweet, I tweet as well, a small tweets, so no, like, if we lose this match, our career was finito.
Well, I saw finito. I actually did see. We saw you all on camera as soon as you got that. You won the final round. You got the winning kill, and I could just see you all just go. We got through it, but now it's all eyes to G2 tomorrow, and they put on one hell of a performance here today. So they're another threat ahead of you tomorrow now.
Yeah, but I guess again another team like who we don't have any info. We have Consulate to work on. That's it. But yeah, we kinda know G2. It's still Alemao, Doki, the coach still the same. So yeah, we will play like we used to do and win the match.
I think looking into the game specifically, I thought, especially in attack, I mean, it's a defender-sided map, but still, I thought there was a huge struggle into getting the foot in the building, getting more control. And looking at G2 today, they were really strong into preventing attackers to get in the building. What do you think went wrong there to try and to really gain more control in attack?
I think it's we got scared of losing this game. I think it's a big part. And no info, we don't know at all how they played. So I think after we lose like a couple rounds, like at 6-4, we're like, okay guys, we after the coach said, okay, we need to try this way. We tried this way. We got pumping, this kind of thing. So at 6-4, we know, okay guys, they are playing like this. We need to play that way, and that's why we did the comeback.
For sure. Look, you guys, in my opinion, best team in the world. You don't need to be scared of anything. So, Licky Fack, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you.
See you tomorrow, guys.
Cheers. Just got away with it. They just got away with it. But I think we're all Wylde fans for a brief moment there, weren't we? Let's now take a look at standings after Playday 1 Fresh.
Yeah, so the standings, as you can see, it's going to be G2 topping the pile after they utterly dominated their arch nemesis in Fnatic. Secret, Wolves, they both got a clean victory. And then you're going to see, as you've just seen, BDS an overtime victory against Wylde. Virtus.pro, not played yet. They got the luxury of sitting and watching all of the other teams today, and then Into the Breach ends Fnatic make up our lower end of the table. Obviously, all three of those teams lost in regulation.